My friend Misha keeps an in-character journal for the character that he's playing in our D&D game. The format is pretty simple. It's mostly a free-form bulleted prose written from the perspective of his character. The entries are normally characterized by locations or events with his character's thoughts written underneath. What I find really fascinating is that the journal as a whole presents the events of the campaign through the lens of his character. And witnessing that assemble throughout the course of 2 years has been a really fun experience for me as the DM to watch. As I'm reading through the journal, I can almost hear him speaking in character, narrating it to me. It's like going through journal entries in a video game or something and immersing yourself in this ambient piece of storytelling found in the world. So that's kind of what I'm here to pitch today. And right off the bat, I'll just say that this probably isn't for everybody. Misha is a very intellectual player, both in terms of mechanics, like how he likes to build his characters, and how he likes to role play them. He thinks very long and hard about what they would do in any given situation. So I could imagine that if you're more of an off the cuff improv type character, then this might not be super suited for you. But hey, that being said, that there still might be something that you can pull from this to use in your games or your characters going forward. Also, one of the main reasons that this works so well for him and I is that I, as the DM, have access to the character journal, so I can read it basically whenever I want to. The main reason that I do have access to his character journal is because he mentioned one time that he was keeping one, and I asked if I could read it, and he said yes. So here we are. Getting into it, one of the main functions of the character journal, as I have observed, is it really allows you to dig deep on what your character is thinking in response to certain events that occur in the campaign. I have a lot of trouble interpreting events that happen in the campaign as my character in that moment because I would often default to what I would do in that moment. This is something I'm getting better at, but that's just my brain's automatic responses to default to what I would do most of the time. This is especially prevalent in like early days of the campaign when you're still feeling out the character and getting a read on what their personality is, how they'd behave in response to certain stimuli, and other external forces within the world. Using the character journal, you can look back on events when they've already happened and try to interpret them from your character's perspective in a low stakes environment. Having time away from the table, which at times can be a very high pressure setting, especially if you're with a lot of people who are very good at improv, like I am sometimes. Um, Having time away really gives you time to analyze what exactly happened and how your character might interpret it. Another use for your character journal is to theory craft about the mechanics of your character and really get into the nitty gritty of what you want them to do in the confines of the game itself. For example, there was a point within the campaign where Misha indicated through his character journal that he no longer wanted to play a ranger anymore. So he used the space that he had to theory craft about the ideas that interested him as to the retraining possibilities. These included a number of subclass changes, multi-class changes, full class retrains, and just a myriad of other possibilities that he was able to use his character journal to articulate to me, knowing that I could see it. In addition to this, he also had a section dedicated towards magic items and gear that he thought might be interesting from a story or mechanical perspective for his character to have, along with some pictures for some like aesthetic influences that he was going for. Honestly, I could see this one being pretty controversial. Whoa. Um, because it's basically, I think it can come off as your player telling you what they want in the game. And honestly, I think that's okay because one thing I really struggle with sometimes is I think it's a good idea to have everybody have at least one really cool magic item that their character really likes or that they really like to use that kind of is like their signature item. As somebody who likes to design like bespoke magic items for their players, it can be really intimidating sometimes to find something that works. For my friend Calvin's character, admittedly, we're level 12 at this point, and I still don't think that I've given him something to really latch on to. That's the same for my other friend Liam, because it's just intimidating. Like, I don't know what to do, and I wouldn't say it's their fault for not telling me or anything like that. It's definitely not a part of the culture for a player to just say what they want out of like a magic item experience. But what Misha was doing here by putting these items here for me to see, he wasn't trying to force these ideas on me, and he made it clear from the beginning, but he was just giving me suggestions that honestly made it a lot easier for me to come to a conclusion about what I thought might be cool for him to have later on in the campaign. Also, another aspect is I want my players to have fun. So why would I not give them the things that they ask for, especially if they're able to earn it? I think that's a no-brainer, personally. So getting into like what to do, like where do you start? What do you include in a character journal? There's a couple ways you can do this. If the campaign is just starting out, then I suggest using your backstory, if you have one at the time, to launch into it. Say, if the campaign starts with everybody meeting in a tavern, maybe you start with your character getting off the boat at the town or city that everybody's in and making their way to the tavern, and their thoughts like, oh, what am I thinking heading into this potentially new city for the first time, embarking on this career path as an adventurer? What are my feelings about that? Maybe if your campaign has been going on for a little while, maybe you could start from a recent big event that happened within the past couple of sessions, because mainly going all the way back to the beginning is going to be very cumbersome. And speaking from experience, I tried to do that. It did not work out very well. It's a lot of pointless writing. Starting from a recent important event in the party's history would be a really good jumping off place. Alternatively, you can just start right from where your last session ended. That's probably the fastest way to get into it. That's probably what I would do if I was given a second chance with the character that I was trying to do a character journal for. Another note is that when journaling, both in real life and in D&D, it's very cumbersome to include every single little event that occurred in the session or in the day. So I would recommend sticking to the important events. Those are kind of for you to subjectively classify on your own as what's important and what's not. But that's kind of a good thought exercise for your character. What do they think is important that has happened recently? Does that conflict with other characters' notions of what's important? I'm just giving you free ideas at this point. You're welcome. What I'm trying to say is stick to the big events for now, and as you get accustomed to it, get into the flow, maybe you can start getting into the more nitty-gritty of like the little events and how they impact you. But in all seriousness, just like in real life again, just do whatever works for you. That's kind of how real life journaling works, is that there are thousands of tactics for effective journaling out there. And there are thousands of different, millions, billions of different types of people out there. And everybody is going to have something different that works for them. And a lot of that is finding what works for you. So yeah, just experiment with it, play around, find your voice, and this fictionalized version of yourself's voice as well. Okay. I think that's all I have to say. Let me know if this works for you. It'd be cool. Yeah. All right. Take care. Bye. Don't panic. This is a low stakes thing. Just chill out.